Good afternoon, everyone. You've heard about the marathon runners in China freezing. Scenes abound, thermal blankets ripped to bits. Repeat in history, absolutely. The children's blizzard of 1888. The scenes are exactly the same. And when you see accounts of needle ice freezing people's eyes shut in China, and that's exactly what was spoken about in 1888, there are cycles. The extremes are back. A friend of mine called me and said, Dave, you got to check out this game. It's called Raid Shadow Legends. But I'm not really a game player, and he knew that as well. But the point was, inside Shadow Legends, by the way, which has millions of players, the mythos of world history and fact disguised as game. The campaign maps are Ice Age low sea level maps. It's believed that for the last several hundred years, they've been under the brutal heel, and only in the past few months overthrown Searoth's yoke and revealed themselves to other factions. Are they horrible? Yes. Evil? Not anymore. Are they good? Only time will tell. Come meet the new arrivals in the game. And just this month, Raid released an insane amount of new content. 11 amazing new champions, 5 tough new levels, 200 brand new missions to complete, all in just 1 month. Install Raid for free on iOS, Android, or PC and start your journey. The link's in the description box below. Going to start you over here in rugged Gansu. Ultra endurance marathon race, 100 kilometers, 60 miles. For those of you in the States, coming into late spring, things were expected to stay warm and cool enough for the runners to run, yet not freezing, which is exactly what happened. 21 people ended up freezing to death up here. Hail, freezing rain, and high winds hit the runners. I was right up near Baiyin, but a repeating chapter in history that I'd read about earlier when I was doing research about the Grand Solar Minimum, the children's blizzard. This is the exact same thing. Balmy morning, and by the afternoon it was minus 47 degrees, and an enormous amount of people couldn't even find their way from their own front yards back to their doors due to the extreme conditions, heavy winds, and blind out. So the race map here, it's going to start in the east and then loop around westward and then come back in. Now where the trouble occurred on this trail here, I'll zoom it out here for you, is between CP2 and 3. It was about 18 kilometers, which is a little less than 24, so come a little bit south there, up into that area where it hooks west at the base of the river there and straight up the mountain over the ridge. This is where that event happened, but you could see how quickly the wind would have been funneled through there. That is a wind tunnel at all times, probably. But the images coming out of social media of how many people were missing and what the rescue effort for this, those who survived were all hypothermic. And when I look at these images of 1,000 rescuers going up there, I'm like, there's something way more than was released and what hit the news media here. This kind of rescue effort is full city size with the amount of people that they sent in there. There has to be scapegoats. Obviously, organizers didn't have rapid response rescue teams in there. Well, nobody expected it to drop below freezing and send ice needles at 80 miles an hour across the contestants running through here. Same echo in time. They call it the schoolhouse blizzard or the children's blizzard. Those two terms are interchangeable. And the reason was so many kids had walked to school back then and they were trying to come home in the afternoon because the weather became so ferocious that they couldn't even find their way home, grabbing fences. So the scenes of how deep the snow was, people huddling together for heat, 1888, and then we fast forward to 2021, we're seeing the exact same thing. It's really eerie to look in chapters of history and see this happening. But with our modern technology, how did this happen? Something very far outside the norm came down. I mean, the weather forecasters up there knew that it was going to be a little windy and whatnot, but this caught them so far off guard that this is an anomaly that was even unforecastable. So for the scapegoats to be taken down, I personally feel that this Grand Solar Minimum is the culprit, not organizers of the race. Because referring back to the blizzard here of 1888, Children's Blizzard, the atmosphere suddenly violently changed. One moment the air was calm, it was warm in the morning too, the snow started to melt, and then raging chaos of horizontal snow, hurricane force winds, unprecedented cold front ripping through, and it mimics this perfectly because the day before this event, it was very hot around the race area. They knew it was going to be windy, moderate rain, and that's all they thought it would be. That's with modern forecasting coming out of the Chinese Weather Bureau. And they got it wrong, yet they need to blame somebody else. So the exact same thing, in a very short period of time, hailstones, ice, rain, and strong winds hit that area, and the temperatures dropped sharply. And here's the thing that makes no sense. They said it only fell to 9 degrees. How is that possible? Because a couple paragraphs, if you read into the story here, it says making search and rescue even more difficult. Okay, 9, 8, 7, 6 degrees Celsius, which is in the 40s, should not make it that difficult for rescuers to get up there. Something is being underreported, shall we say. Because the Children's Blizzard, same thing. Frozen droplets, traveling sideways from the sky due to heavy winds, obviously. Speeding ice needles moving at 60 miles per hour. Whiteout conditions, zero visibility. I think they could see about 3 steps in front of them. Here's where the spookiness happens. Microscopic bits of ice froze their eyes shut. These are some of the images from the lithographs back in 1888. But the same accounts are happening here in this story. Like the wind's too strong or thermal blankets have no effect. They were torn to bits. Well, that's the same thing that they were talking about with wool clothing in the 1800s. Some people were able to actually get down mountain, but how is it that they were foaming at the mouth? Now, wait a second. A cold front coming in, professional athletes at the top of their ability, the most epically trained humans and physiology on the planet, they were just barely able to make it down a mountain of a race of, that whole leg was only not even 12 miles. And they couldn't get down the mountain, and they were foaming at the mouth by the time they got down there. Something weird with the pressure, and I don't know, there's a lot of strangeness, a lot of woo-woo in this one. Because the schoolhouse blizzard, eyes froze shut. And these are some of the snow depths. I mean, you understand how deep that was. But the exact same thing's reported right here. These Chinese runners talking about the ice, sideways ice was hitting them in the face. Their eyes began to blur. They couldn't see. Same thing. So what kind of ice would do this? What kind of snow can pelt you? There's 2 types of tubular ice. The one in the center at the bottom, which they call needles, or the top left, which are the drums. Those 2. So when we start to take a look at the different temperatures for these to begin to form, these hollow columns or the needles, you have to be at least 20 degrees Fahrenheit or 5 degrees Celsius below zero, which is in the mid-20s. But the news media is reporting that it was only 8 or 9 degrees. And that's Celsius, so it would be low 40s in Fahrenheit. Remember, 0 degrees Celsius is 32 degrees Fahrenheit. So 9 degrees Celsius would be in the 40s Fahrenheit, but below zero would be in the 20 Fahrenheit range. So wait a second. The actual facts on the ground of what the ice formed that was hitting these people show the temperatures had to be below freezing. Like, who's trying to save their reputation here of reporting temperatures that are, 15 degrees warmer? Something's so amiss on this story of what happened. Terrible up in the mountains, agreed, but to mask all the information like this, startling. And here's the scenes actually from the lithographs, the incident, the blizzard in Dakota. A lot of people were found. They were huddled together. Rescuers, people were coming through, and they picked up others just like this race. It is so strange, the similarities. It's almost like 2 dimensionalities and times rifted on top of each other with the exact same events in a different time space. Because the stories of people being rescued and found and pulled and taken to safety exactly right here. A shepherd ended up rescuing a lot of people in the Ultramarathon. Zhu Keming, he had his own cave up there. He's a herder. He knew how to deal with this weather. He was able to start fires and keep all these people warm inside his own homemade cave. Obviously, being a sheep herder up there, he was used to the extreme weather. And this is how extreme it is in these areas. Now, if the most state-of-the-art weather forecasting gear for one of the biggest races in China, and they couldn't get the weather right because it was 20 or 30 degrees cooler than what was forecast with all of these incredible atmospheric anomalies happening, the sun's waking up, magnetic anomalies. How do you get 12 coronal mass ejections in a single day off a sunspot group? There's just a huge amount of randomness happening right now, as well as these massive record snowfalls, huge amount of volcanoes, and tundra fires that are adding just an enormous amount of smoke in to block sunlight. Do appreciate you watching. I hope you got something out of the video. All the links for tonight's stories and images are in the description box below, as well as links to My Patriot Supply long-term food storage. It's a way to help the channel here and give yourself the peace of mind that you have long-term storable foods. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.